Now let's talk about what's driving a lot of this, and that is climate hysteria. We have climate alarmism, climate hysteria, climate fear-mongering. It's all around us. You hear it and see it every day. Our kids get it at school. They get it in the media. They hear it from our politicians. We've talked about it here with psychologists and other experts. We're putting the fear of God into our kids about climate. Suffer the little children, hey? I mean, don't blame them. They are being fed this stuff daily.
From raging bushfires to catastrophic flooding, the past 3 years have been marred by extreme weather events. More Australians raised climate change as their #1 issue than any other topic, according to the ABC's Vote Compass.
After a terrible year of floods and rain, the nation's latest climate outlook warns there's not just more to come, but worse to come.
Disaster, destruction and despair. It has been relentless. The Bureau warns more extreme weather is on the way.
Events like these floods and the intense rainfall that cause them are being supercharged by the climate crisis.
Supercharged, eh? Yeah, the media is reckless on this. They peddle fear. Every bushfire, every flood, every heatwave reported as if it's something new. Unprecedented is their favourite word, and even when it's almost always not true, they tell us all sorts of weather is worse than we've had before, when the cold, hard facts, the actual records, show that this is nonsense. And what's just as disturbing, if not worse really, is the way our politicians push this exaggerated alarm too.
More coal and gas mines will cause more floods, fires and droughts.
Those disasters are becoming increasingly devastating, increasingly frequent, increasingly unnatural.
We have experienced successive seasons of unprecedented bushfires and floods. And before the bushfires and floods, we had drought.
Ecosystems will collapse and more species will become extinct, and more of us will die.
Now, calling this out, denouncing this hysteria is not about climate denial. It's not about being anti-science. It's actually about sticking to the science, sticking to the facts. The world is not about to end. Bushfires, floods, storms, droughts and heatwaves. We've all grown up with these. They can be terrible, but don't convince our kids that these are somehow a new Armageddon or that we haven't weathered all of these relentlessly forever. They are natural disasters. Natural. And they will always be with us. Always. And we will endure. Which brings me to the climate protesters, the disruption they bring to our cities and the way our law enforcement and justice systems deal with them, or sometimes don't. We looked at the way a couple of protesters won their appeals yesterday in New South Wales, having custodial sentences dropped so that they walked free. And I showed you how one of the protesters talked about his right to disrupt the lives of other people because of his priorities about climate change.
I again apologise to citizens of Sydney who got held up on the road by us. But like I say, that half an hour of disruption is nothing compared to the disruption that climate change is bringing upon people.
The arrogance, hey? The selfishness, the absolute pig-headedness of that attitude, I reckon it's just beyond words. But reports today tell us the court heard that protester was a volunteer firefighter, and good on him for that. But it also heard that he was motivated to the protest following his devastation of the Black Summer bushfires and the climate. See, there's the link to the alarmist propaganda. There are terrible bushfires, and that man was helping to combat them. Good on him. But you protest then against what? Against bushfires? Protests won't stop bushfires, and climate policies won't stop them either. But this is the fantasy world that the climate alarmists have created, and we have to live with the consequences, whether that's an energy crisis or blocked freeways. The other protester who won an appeal yesterday was Deanna Coco Violet, and the judge said that she showed remorse for her actions and was channeling her diagnosed climate anxiety into community work with flood victims in Lismore now, presumably instead of blocking bridges. But diagnosed climate anxiety is now the thing to justify your unreasonable climate protests? I'm getting protest anxiety now, and I'd actually like to treat it by seeing some facts and rational arguments injected into the climate change debate.